So, hi everyone, welcome. This is Ardon Toonstra and I will be the moderator of this session. Wart Weistra will give this session. So if you're ready, Wart, you can share your screen and then the floor is all yours.
Lovely, thank you, Ardon. Let me do both of those things. Put my presentation here, get some Zoom sharing. So, how are we doing? Same slide?
Yeah, I can see your slide.
Lovely. And it seems to respond to what I'm doing. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're here at the session for IG packages, IGs and packages, creating them with Simplifier, publishing them to the world. My name is Ardon Weistra. I'll introduce myself. I'm here live in the FHIR office. You'll probably see Ewout and Rien there on the couch. Let me introduce myself quickly. I'm Ardon Weistra. I work at FHIR. FHIR, contrary to popular belief, we're not an event company. We do organize Dev Days twice a year, but mainly we provide all the tools, training, tooling, everything that you need to bring your FHIR to life, as we say. I'm personally the product owner for our modeling tools. Simplifier is the platform that we'll mostly be seeing today. It's our online collaboration platform. Forge is our desktop FHIR development tool. Ardon has shown this to you on Tuesday already in the Let's Builds there. And I'm also the content lead for FHIR Dev Days, so I hope you're having a good time here. This track is this talk is part of the Let's Build is part of our Let's Build a FHIR Spec track. You've probably been to one or more of these sessions before, and this is roughly how we're built up. I already want to say now we have a pretty small group, so that's great because then we can have it nice and interactively. You should all be able to unmute yourself, and you can use the chat if you want to, but I'd love it if you just turn on your camera and unmute yourself whenever you have a question. We'll be really going through this interactively. I will not be doing a lot of slides. I'll really show you live on Simplifier how it can be done. And maybe you can tell me if you open your, you should be able to give some reactions if you open the participants window. I hope you'll be able to do that. You should be able to tell me via yes or no whether you have attended one of these Let's Build sessions on the previous day. Maybe you can click yes or no. I see one yes coming in. Good. I'll click a coffee just to show you how it's done. 2 yes, 2 no, 3 yes. Yes is winning. Great. So we have some indication. There will be a mix of both. That's great because we'll be building on what you've done before, but you don't necessarily need that. I also have backup stuff if you're just getting started. Ardon will be moderating the chat, so I'm sure he will notify me if there's anything relevant in there. What we've seen over the 4 days, you started profiling on Tuesday with Forge. Forge is our desktop FHIR development tool at FHIR, and it makes structure definitions, all the conformance resources that you need in your FHIR specification. Same on Wednesday, you worked with Mark and Chris, if you were there, to use FHIR Shorthand to also make the same kind of conformance resources and examples. So you probably have a set of conformance resources if you joined those. And then yesterday, you might have worked together with Jose to use the IG Publisher to package those resources together and made some documentation around it. That's what we call an implementation guide in the FHIR scene. And the same thing basically we're going to do today. We're going to show you an alternative way to do that. You've used the command line tool yesterday to make your IG, to make your FHIR package. But today we're going to show you our online cloud development tool where you can do that with Simplifier. So the end of the session, you'll be having your own FHIR development project. You'll be having your implementation guide on top, the documentation, and then we're going to release a stable versioned package of the whole thing so people can start building on top of that. That's what we're going to do. And I'll show you quickly how these tools fit together. I'll show you basically the same thing, but then in a different view. We're focusing here really in this Let's Build a FHIR Spec track on the profilers, the profile authors. So we're really defining kind of the data model, the API model with Forge or with Forge or with FHIR Shorthand. And once we're ready with our profiles, we can publish them to Simplifier, work together with our colleagues on that, and we can collaborate here, and we can do that cycle until we're happy. And once we're happy with it, we can publish them, and other people can start using that in a FHIR server and actually making data, putting data in a system that complies to the conformance resources that we made. And then once we're there, then you as a hospital have a nice FHIR API where other people can build apps on top. That's really what the developers on the right side here are doing. So we'll be focusing on this cycle here and how we are making stuff ready for people in this cycle. In the chat, we've posted the link to the exercises. So you're free to have already worked on it if you found them before. Work on it during the session. I'll try to help you through it, or use this session as a pointer to get ready to do it yourself afterwards. Do you have any other slides? I don't think so, anything relevant right now. I'm just gonna take you live to Simplifier itself. Ardon, anything important yet that we need to answer?
No, not yet.
Nothing yet. Great.
You can continue.
Awesome. This is Simplifier, simplifier.net. Feel free to go there in your browser. Simplifier is basically two things. On the one hand, it's a FHIR registry. So we have, via all the FHIR packages, access to all the published FHIR content in the world. And that's, of course, really important if you want to find prior art, but also if you want to build on top of these FHIR resources in your own project. So if you live in the US, you probably want to build a US core. If you live in Germany, you probably want to build your profiles. If you're making anything relevant to that market, build them on the basis profile that they are defining. So that's what I'm going to show you here. We're going to look at some other FHIR resources. But on the other hand, it's also a collaboration platform. It's like GitHub, but then specially for FHIR. So we have all kind of nice validation, visualization, everything that you need for the FHIR specific world. This is our homepage, and you see a nice map overview here where we have a pointer of all the different FHIR resources in the world. And I'm just going to look at some great examples here, but there's, as you can see, 3,500 projects on Simplifier with loads of different resources. And I'm just going to show you a few highlights. So if we hover over, for example, in this case, the United Kingdom, we see that there's 160 projects going on there. But one of the great institutes that we're working with is NHS Digital. And NHS Digital is one of the organizations on Simplifier. They have their nice organizational homepage. And here they can give some information about the organization, publish their FHIR news. But most of all, this is an access to all the different projects that we're building. So these should really be seen as kind of GitHub repositories, the development place for FHIR projects. And of course, one of their very exciting projects updated yesterday is UK Core, where they're defining the R4 profiles for the United Kingdom. When we open a project here, a FHIR project, we can see that we have a nice introduction page again, where you can give some nice information on the FHIR project itself. And we see a breakdown of all the different FHIR resources in there. So there will be a lot of conformance resources in here, different profiles. So this is really structure definitions, which you've been building over the last days. There's value sets and code systems, so the terminology. There's extensions which you're using in your profiles, etc. So there's many different things. There's also an implementation guide resource, and you will also see the context of the implementation guide in here itself. And then Simplifier is also a place where you can load example data for all those different resources. That's really useful for people implementing your standard, to have some example data that gives an overview of how you would implement the profiles that you've made. And we can also use them to validate the profiles and validate examples. So that's a breakdown of the project. I'm just going to show you a few projects first, so you have an idea what's all possible and which great people are using the platform. And then we're going to dive into one specific project where I've made some exercises that you can work on yourself. So this is the introduction tab. Now this is the resources tab. This is where we have a breakdown of all the different resources in here. For example, all the different profiles. And you can see, for example, they have a nice profile on allergy intolerance, etc. I'll dive into resources a bit more later. They all have their own page. It's already a little bit like an implementation guide because it has all these nice visualizations of the profile and all the tables and all the links to other resources. But first, I'll give you a better overview of our FHIR development project here. So if we go on past the resources tab, we see that we have a guides tab. This is where the implementation guides live. Implementation guides, you probably know by now, but this is the documentation around a FHIR project. So really the manual, how should I be using this? We have a really nice interactive implementation guide builder in just working directly in the browser, which we'll be using today. I could quickly show you the UK Core implementation guide. It's hosted here directly on Simplifier, but you can also export it so you can show it on your own server anywhere you want. And here it is. So this is a nice overview of their resources, introduction. It's basically like a website builder, but then also with access to all the different specific FHIR visualizations here. So we can see the same allergy intolerance profile nicely embedded here within this, implementation guide, this website, and you have the same interactive views that we will be seeing in Simplifier in a moment. So that's what's happening on the guides tab of a project. You can manage who you're working together with in your project, of course. You can set access. Projects can be private or public. I should here note that when we're doing this tutorial, and just in general, everyone can create an account on Simplifier for free. Everyone can create one free public FHIR project, and you can use this to really use it for your own work, make an implementation guide, put resources in there, create packages, etc. So that's what we'll be doing right now. Some more advanced features like working together with a team or having private projects and these kind of things, we require you to have a license for that. And that's something you can explore when you're ready for that. So the project has a team. You can manage who can administrate the project, read the project, write to the project, etc. Then on the log, we can see a nice stream of every change that's been made on this development project of FHIR. And we can also see this on individual files. In the Issues tab, we can collect feedback either from just our team. So I think with Jose, you also worked on a kind of feedback mechanism in your implementation guides. This is really how Simplifier, just like GitHub issues, how you can track any comments that either your team has, like, hey, we really need to make a change to this profile, or there's something wrong here. Your team can report issues there, but you can also choose to even let the public respond to your implementation guide and get public feedback in this way. So that's really where you can use the Issues tab. That's all kind of nice features from your project. But now we're going to some substantial things that will also be changing today. If I'm making a FHIR project, I can specify on what other projects I'll be building. In this case, when we're looking at UK Core, they're really making a national standard. So they're probably building on the core FHIR specification. And that's indeed what we see when we go to the dependencies tab. We see that they're building on the core R4 FHIR specification. But on the other hand, UK Core itself is also delivering FHIR packages. So I'm not sure if you attended my talk 2 days ago, where I discussed FHIR packages. But basically, FHIR packages are nice fixed and versioned zip files, or just a packaged version of your project. So you give it a name, you give it a version number, and that will never change. So it's a really stable building block. And UK Core is also delivering to their customers their own UK Core packages. So if we look at UK Core 1.3.0, it's been updated 2 months ago. That's a nice stable version that if I'm now making a very specific use case within the United Kingdom, I can build on top of those resources. And then if I would be building on top of UK Core, I would go to the dependencies tab and set this as my dependency, this package. We'll be seeing that in a moment because our project will also be building on those FHIR resources. Good, I think we have a breakdown of the project itself. Let's look a bit at resources in there. So for example, let's go to this allergy intolerance profile. And every FHIR resource will have its own nice, pretty page on Simplifier. And on the overview tab, we see same visualizations that you've probably seen within the implementation guide that you've made with Jose yesterday. But we can see the snapshot of the profile. We can see the differential or a combination of both, the hybrid here. And this is all nice and interactive. You can open this, you can click through to other resources. We have all the links on Simplifier because we have access to all that FHIR content in the world. So if you're using any other resource, we can directly take you there if you click on this specific resource. And on the other tabs here, you will find everything related to this profile. So this is the nice tree view that we have, but we also have this details view. If you have any mappings to outside standards, we'll be putting that on the mappings table here. So this is a mapping to HL7 v2, for example. We have this table view, we have the XML view, the JSON view, etc. So there's a lot here. And just like the project, we also have a history. We keep a history of the profile. You can even select two versions of the profile and then show a differential between them. So we can see what did someone change to this allergy intolerance profile in this case. Well, apparently they changed the purpose of the profile. And I mentioned issues. We can report issues on this specific profile. And I already kind of mentioned this before. Since we have access to all these FHIR resources, you can see related profiles. So related resources. So this is an allergy intolerance profile. Here we'll see links, for example, when someone actually makes an example for that profile, or when someone else is making a derived version of that profile, etc. So all these links are here. I think that probably is a quick overview of Simplifier itself, how it looks out from the front. Let's take one more example. This is the UK national core profiles. But similarly, when we go to Germany, we will see that HL7 Germany is using Simplifier to create their base profiles for the country, SU3, R4. They're all available here. So there's many great projects working on here. Actually, there's a nice link if you go to even FHIRly itself, also has a organization on Simplifier. It's a bit of inception there, but we have here this list of endorsed profile projects. You can see some very nice projects that are building on here. The national core profiles for the Netherlands, for France, a lot of Canadian projects here, COVID-19 projects. I'm also very happy to see SAP making profiles here for their patient management platform. So there's all these great companies using Simplifier, but now it's time for us ourselves to start using Simplifier. So we've pasted the link in the chat, and that link, the bit.ly link, will take you to this project. It's a project of FHIRly, the organization FHIRly. And for more inception here, I just also, within the implementation guide for this project, I put the exercises that we're working on. So feel free to go to this page, to this project, and in the description here, I put a link to the exercises. If you open that, you will get to our implementation guide, our hosted implementation guide, and here we can walk through the different exercises that we have. We have like 25 minutes left. I will be giving you pointers to what we are about to do here. I'll not be doing everything, and then I hope that you will break in at any point when you have a question. And if it doesn't work out during the sessions, you can always reach out later in Whova. I'll put my email address up later, so you're always able to reach out to me. First thing we're going to do is creating our own FHIR project. What you will need for that is a Simplifier.net account. If you don't have one yet, I'd be surprised by now, but if you don't have one yet, go to Simplifier.net, click on the top right, sign up, and you can create a free account. All you need to do is confirm your email address, and then you have an account. Once you're there, you can go to your portal. Sometimes it's a bit tricky to find it. Go to the top right, click on your little profile icon. If you made a nice picture here, click on Portal. Portal is really where you have access to all your FHIR resources, anything that you have on Simplifier. You can see the entire list of my projects here. I tend to have a lot of projects. You can see the list of organizations where you're a member of, teams where you're a member of, implementation guides that you're working on, packages that you've published, etc. Right now, if you don't have a project yet, click the Create button, make your own project. If you already have a project and you have a limit of one project as a free user, you can maybe reuse that project or remove it, start again, whatever you want to do. What's important for this exercise is that you make sure that you make a project in the FHIR version R4, the latest stable FHIR version, and that you set your scope to test. This is just to make sure that you are telling everyone, this is just a test project. I'm figuring this out. This is not something that you should rely on. So don't call this these official national profiles for your specific country yet, if you're just trying it out. Well, then we have a nice FHIR project. Then there's some important settings to do. And Arden, you'll break in whenever there's a good question, right? Good, lovely.
Yeah, I will.
Lovely. And anyone else, feel free to unmute if you have a relevant question at any step where you're getting stuck.
Perhaps we can do a button yes or no for who has created a project. So if you've created a project, can you press the green yes button in Zoom?
See two projects, 3 projects, 4 projects, 5 projects.
Yeah.
I'm going to use Ben's technique of just randomly shouting in a microphone just to keep you awake. 5 projects, 6. 1 person doesn't have yet. So very good. Okay, so most people are following along. That's great. Feel free to do it afterwards too. That's perfectly fine. We have a project. Now we're going to do some configurations. One thing that is important, as I mentioned before, go to your project. I'll be showing it based on this project. Go to the dependencies tab. And this is where we're going to tell Simplifier, these are the other projects that I will be depending on. That makes sure that you don't need to copy anything that you want to borrow from another project. You don't need to copy those and duplicate them on your own project. Because if you would, they would be getting out of sync. Someone else is defining these profiles. So when you are here, you probably will have by default already the FHIR core package, but now you can click on manage. And this is where you would search for a specific package, uk.core, for example, R4. We click the package, then we get the option to select the FHIR version or the package version that we're interested in. For example, we're interested in version 1.3.0, and we can click add. Then it will be listed here. So don't forget to click add, and afterwards don't forget to click save. That's all you need to do. And then if you've done it correctly, edit the 2 packages which are in the exercises. The one is the UK core, the other is the international patient summary. So the universal individual international patient summary. Then you will see them as direct dependencies of your project. You can choose to keep this one as direct dependency, or it's an indirect dependency. So one of these projects, or both actually, are depending on the core FHIR specification. So it will be an indirect dependency of ours too. It's this kind of tree where we're building on top of each other. Good, that's our dependencies set up. Now, there's a few things that are optional, but they're fun. You can go to your introduction tab of your project, click here on the bottom right, and then you can write any markdown to make this a nice overview of people coming to your project. I'll quickly show you mine. When I click the edit button here, this is what my markdown looks like. I've put some links to what Markdown is and how it works in the descriptions there of the exercises. But I'm sure you'll figure this out. You guys are technical. This is how we would render an image in our project, but we'll get back to that because there are some nice help files in the implementation guide editor that will tell us how that works. So then you have a nice overview of your project. And then there's a few things we can do in the settings, like giving our project a nice picture. I've put the FHIR picture up here, and we can give our project a nice canonical base URL. What is a base URL? Well, you know what canonicals are by now. These are the unique identifiers of our individual FHIR resources. But the base URL is basically what we're saying. Okay, all our canonical resources start with this part. And in this case, I've claimed the FHIR DevDays R4. I recommend you to choose a different one. Always choose something within your own namespace. What does that mean? Choose something with your name, but it's very similar to website domains. I'm definitely not allowed to publish any websites on top of google.com because that's owned by someone else, or on HL7FHIR.org, etc. So choose something. I would maybe choose wartweistra.nl /FHIR /structure definitions, etc. Maybe I want to use a specific namespace for R4 as I've done in this case. So these kind of things. This happens both for canonical URLs and for FHIR package names. Yes, Ardon.
Yeah, we have a question about the package dependencies.
Okay. Yeah.
More specifically about the indirect package dependencies of the core package. How do you assign it to be indirect?
Yeah, that's all you need to do basically is throw it away as a direct dependency.
Okay.
So then it will still stick around here because it's still an indirect dependency. But if you want to have it as direct dependency, that's perfectly fine too. The only time you will get problems here, and that's the same in the software world, is if you have two different packages that are using two different versions of another package. So if, for example, a new version of the FHIR core would come out and UK core would start depending on that one, and I would choose to upgrade to that UK core package, then, and maybe IPS hasn't upgraded, then when it's referring to the HL7 core patient, we don't know to take it from the 4.0.1 version of the FHIR core specification or the 4.0.2 or something. So make sure you keep your package dependencies in line, even the indirect dependencies. So then maybe we will have to wait until RPS also upgrades, and only then we will upgrade our dependencies. But packages, these current versions will never change. They will stay as they are. So no one is going to force us to upgrade, but at some point, if we want to upgrade, make sure that you keep those in line.
Okay, thanks, Ward.
Thank you. That was a lengthy explanation. So we've concluded chapter 2. Let's go to chapter 3. You have a few choices here. You can start clean. You can start with an empty project, take the resources that you've made over the last few days. That's basically this line here at the end of chapter 3. You can do that, and then you start an empty implementation guide. Perfectly fine. I applaud you. If you want to do it a bit easier, you can take my project that I've already made here. How do we do that? Well, step 1 is that we go to my project. So really go to my project, the bit.ly link that you had in the chat, and go here to download and zip project. There's a few options here for downloading. You can just choose to get the conformance resources, but then you would be missing out on my entire implementation guide and examples. No, not examples, just my implementation guide. So make sure that you choose zip project, and then you will get everything. Then next, go to your own project, and there you would not choose download, but upload. It's all quite logical. And then you click upload file. You select the zip file that you just downloaded from my project, and then you have a nice project setup. There's only one more step you need to do before you're actually ready to go, and that is find the implementation guide resource. Because right now, when I go to my guides tab, you see that I have an implementation guide here. But if you have just imported your project, you will not directly see that. You need to go to the Resources tab, find the Implementation Guide resource. So maybe here on the left, we filter on Implementation Guide. There's only one of them. You click on this guy, you go to his own page, and then we click Update on the top right. And for you, it will say, just as the screenshot in the exercises, create and start editing this implementation guide. And only after that, it will show up in your guides tab of your project. So refer to the screenshot that's here. It should be self-explanatory. Then we're ready to go to the next step. If you want to take any of the resources that you've made over the last few days, you can take them and upload them to Simplifier. And you can even remove mine if you're not interested in them. An easy way to remove resources from your project is you can click them one by one, go to one specific resource, top right, and then delete them. But you can also go to the home of your project and go to File Manager. And in the File Manager, we can select multiple files and delete them all at once. So if you want to get rid of a few of my resources, that's perfectly fine. And then the next step is to upload your resources. So depending on which of the Let's Builds you've joined, you will either just have made some with Forge and they're living in one folder. In that case, make a nice zip file, upload them to the project. If you have made the implementation guide with the IG Publisher, with Jose, then your resources, on the one hand, the resources that were already in the FHIR format will live in your input folder, and then in these subfolders specifically. So you can take all these files, put them together in a folder, make a zip file, upload them to the project. If you've joined Mark and Chris to make some FHIR resources, then you will probably have those in a different, so you have them, the fish files will be in input/fish, but you should not upload the fish files directly. That's not working in Simplifier, at least not yet. But fish translates to regular FHIR resources, and these regular FHIR resources will end up in your fish-generated folder in your implementation guide. Take these guys, put them in a zip folder, upload them to your project. Easy as that. If you've made any interesting markdown files with Jose, you can take the contents of that, and we'll be using them in a moment in our implementation guide. Questions at this point before we start making a fancy implementation guide?
Not in the chat. So.
Okay. Then let's make an implementation guide.
Sorry, Ward, I have a very quick question for you.
Love it.
I know in Forge, there's a mechanism for uploading your project and your resources and so on to an existing project within Simplifier.
Yes.
Is there a similar mechanism within the whole fish framework, like either using Sushi or the implementation guide publisher, or we just have to manually upload those files?
You can manually upload them, but we do have a nice command line tool. So if you're working with Fish, implement the IG Publisher, it's all command line. Mm-hmm. We have a nice, it's called Torinox. Soon it will be called FHIR Terminal. And this tool can take all the resources from a folder and upload them to your Simplifier project.
Terrific.
Yeah, so that's a nice way to work together. It's just, you can go to simplifier.net, find the downloads page, go to Torinox. You first install the .NET tools here, and then you install the tool Torinox itself. If you type Torinox -- help, it will give you all the information how to log into Simplifier, how to select the project and sync up or sync down to that.
Cool. And presently that tool is limited to .NET?
So the tool is built on .NET, but it works cross-platform.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you very much.
Linux Mac, yeah. Awesome.
And
thanks.
I would like to add that among the paid plans of Simplifier, you also have a GitHub webhook. That's very convenient if you work in GitHub, because then your repository from GitHub will be synced to your project.
Yeah, that's a great point, Arnold. So if I'm on my project and if I have a paid plan, I can say GitHub link repository, and I can even specify which folders I want to get to Simplifier. And every time you make a change in your GitHub repo, it will be synced into Simplifier. Good. Time to make some. Oh, yeah,
I have
please.
a quick question about Torinox. I tried to use it to log into our FHIR REST API, but yeah, logging in doesn't seem, I couldn't find how to do that. So is there OAuth support built in, or is there going to be?
That's a great question. I never tried that yet. That's a good question. Can you remind me?
Yeah, I will
somewhere?
do. I will ask it, and I'll try to get back to you in 10 minutes before the end of the session. And if not, we will get back later.
You're trying to find the lead developer in the meantime?
Yeah, exactly.
Lovely. Okay, thank you. Good. Thanks for trying. We're going to make docs. This was something that was quite new to me when I came into the FHIR community, but here in the FHIR community, we make nice documentations around our data model. You should have a implementation guide right now if you imported it. If not, click the create button, make a new one from scratch if you want to. There's some work, but then you'll get there. The implementation guide will look like this because our exercises are living in the implementation guide. So you have all nice, pretty pages. It might look a bit different now because there's a few steps we need to do, but all the pages will be there. Coming in to the implementation guide, we click the edit button rather than the browse button. And then we will see this nice, what you see is what you get, editor of implementation guides. It's really a website builder. We see on the left here our tree, which is the overview of all the pages we have. In the middle, we'll see the code for the page. So this is the home page for the implementation guide. It's all marked down with some nice FHIR specific stuff that we've built. And then this is our preview on the right. And every time we made a small change, welcome all, we can either click the refresh button here or do Control Enter. And then we see that it's updated here in our live preview, but even in the live website, the implementation guide there. So this is how you can quickly click together one implementation guide. What I'm telling you as a first step to do is go to the little gear icon here, to the settings, and you can give your implementation guide a nice name. You can give it a description, a version number, all free to choose for you. And you probably want to choose the style. So there's multiple different styles we can choose from. This is really kind of HL7 style. This is a more, you have the same kind of tree on the left here style. And this is a style where you have a very modern two-level layout. You can choose. And if you have a paid plan, you can even do your custom styling of that. Another important thing to mention here on the bottom left is a help function. And the help function will give you examples of how to use the implementation guide editor. You can click any of these. For example, how do I implement or embed an image? Then you will see we have the page here that will tell you in Markdown, and here the example on the right. So you can see the code next to how it will turn out. And we can also see that embedding images, as I showed before, is shown here. So you can either take an image from somewhere else, embed it like this, just in Markdown, or if your image is living in, and I have to move you all on the side. If your image is living in a project, you can refer to it in this way. So this is the URL key of the resource of the project. This is the URL key of the specific resource, and then it will show up. Let me show that on an example in a moment. But also here's all the information on how to get a FHIR resource in there. Let me show you some examples in the implementation guide editor. For example, let me show you how I embedded an image. In this case, because that's one of the exercises, I'm here embedding this nice image of the FHIR track. And as I mentioned, I'm showing here first, this is the URL of the project. This is the URL of the resource. How do I find that? Well, simple, you go to your FHIR project here. You go to the resources, you find the image that you've uploaded, might have uploaded, and you click the image that you have. This is the one I have. And then you just copy it from the URL here. Simple as that. This is the project. This is the resource. That's all you need to do is say, okay, render this image is embedded. And actually doing the FHIR specific stuff works exactly the same. So when I go to the implementation guide, and if I go to immunization, we have an overview of all the resources that you've made with Ardon 2 days ago. And we can see when we click on the immunization profile, we have a nice page where we can show the canonical of the resource and then also show the same interactive rendering that you've seen within Simplifier. How do we do this? Well, let's look at the code for that page. Immunization profiles, immunization profile. This is all the code we need. We have here, this is how we make a header in Markdown. This is how we make in Simplifier a link to a specific other page. And this is how we make a table in Markdown. It's very simple. We didn't invent that. That's all Markdown. And then with the specific FHIR codes that we have embedded, you can embed a resource like the tree for this FHIR canonical. So we take, we just type the little curly bracket, and then we'll get autocomplete from our editor. The command we use to show this nice tree is tree. And then we do semicolon. And it will even give us autocomplete for all the different canonicals that we have in our scope so that we can refer to. And then we can embed any of these resources. So if I want to embed the immunization profile, I click that one. And then we have a few options. This is all labeled in the help section. So you can slowly watch it there. But if I want to show the differential instead of the hybrid, I just type diff here. And then we close the curly brackets. I refresh the page. And now we will see that on top of the hybrid here, we have rendered the little differential. Easy as that. This is really, it's a powerful editor that we have here. It's based on the same thing that's in Visual Studio Code. So if you right click, you can see all kind of commands that you can do. There's some nice fancy stuff that you can do to change multiple things at once and those kind of things. That's our implementation guide editor. What I'm asking you to do here is, okay, I've basically done all the work to make these nice pages. So you can go to profiles and see all the different profiles here. You can go to extensions and you see the different extensions that we've defined you're using in this project. Now you go to the adverse event reporting and please do the same. You can add some more pages here. So for example, I've already made a page for the adverse event profile. How about you make some nice rendering there of the adverse event profile? And you can maybe do similarly embed the XML for the example that Mark and Chris have defined for this profile. They're all already in the project if you have them, don't have them yet. So you can just find out how to do that and look at the code for the other pages to learn how to do that.
Okay, thanks, Bart. We only have 2 minutes left.
Ooh.
So yeah, so perhaps we can do some questions or.
Yeah, maybe I should give pointers to a little bit of the rest. We've made the implementation guide. Next step that I'd like you to do is, where's my project? Where is my project? Oh, this is my project, good. Next thing I want you to do is publish a package. That's actually very simple. Go to the packages tab, click create, and it will ask you to create a new package. You do that, you find a nice name. Again, I'll tell you to use your own namespace. So use your name, dot your country code, dot an explanation of what you're building. Use a version number, and I implore you to use a version number that indicates that this is a pre-release. Otherwise, you're going to confuse other people. Other people are going to get mad. So use in your version number, number dash anything that you want to type here. Then it's clear that's a pre-release. And then just choose whether you want a public, private, type some release notes, finish it, and you have created your first stable package that other people can rely on. So in this case, let me show you what a package looks like. And I'll stick around a bit longer for questions if necessary. We have packages here. The package will show you with the release notes, the dependencies that we have, all the different versions of the package. And the very last thing that I'd like you to do is when you go to your implementation guide and you go to scope, right now you see that the implementation guide is talking about the development resources which are living in our development project. but we can instead tell it to point to the resources which are living in our FHIR package. And that's just by typing the package name here. And then we can choose the specific version that we want to have and say that we want to talk about those resources. And then your implementation guide is updated. And I think we're out of time, but let's open it up for questions.
Word, I have what might be a very simple question, I hope, is if I wanted to use Simplifier for basically generating my implementation guide, authoring it, but I actually want to host it somewhere else, how would it, like on my own domain or my own server or something like that?
Simple question. Good. That's indeed very possible. You go to, you need to have a paid plan for that, but our lowest paid plan is enough. Go to the guides, click on the export tab.
Gotcha.
And we'll give you the entire HTML, JSON, JavaScript, etc., to host it on your own website. And
that's for exporting. Is there a way to publish to an external platform?
We don't have a published platform in that sense, but I've seen other people kind of script this to download this and upload it to your own FTP server. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
So yeah, there's also one other question in the chat that popped up. It was about changing the status of the images and text files.
Okay. Oh, that's a great question.
Because there's still a draft.
That must be Bettina, or no? No?
I admit me.
Hi, Bettina. Great question. We're going to fix that. It's just currently they don't have a status, but still will show you that they have a status here, which we shouldn't. And I apologize, but we're going to fix that for you.
Okay. I just thought that I have missed something, maybe.
No, you did not. It's on our side. They really don't have a status, so it shouldn't show thereafter.
And so another question from my side, if I can.
Yes, please.
If you are here in this resource list, you also have implementation guide in this list on the left side.
Yeah.
And when clicking on this one, it always tells you that it cannot render the guide. Or at least colleagues were asking me if you have a guide in here.
Yeah, that is true, and we should look in why that actually is again. Oh, sorry, I'm also showing text files. That's confusing me. I'm seeing the same. Yeah, we should.
Perhaps we should link here to the guide itself.
That too. Yeah.
Something like that.
Improvements we can make. Yeah, we're trying to have specific renderers for every different specific FHIR resource. And in this case, we should probably just give you a link to where the implementation guide lives. Yes.
Okay, but that is a general thing. This is not linked to ours then.
No.
Okay. Yeah, good. Thanks.
Thanks, Bettina.
Okay, so I would like to wrap it up because we are 2 minutes over time.
Yeah, let me tell you how to reach out to me. Go to wart@FHIR.ly, FHIR.ly. That's it. Send me emails, questions. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much, Wart. I will close the meeting. Thanks all for attending. And like Wart said, reach out to Wart if you have any questions about the exercise. And don't forget to rate the session.
Yeah, I did already. That was a great session. I learned some new things. Thank you.
Thanks, Bettina.
That's perfect. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.